So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first match preview of the real season for 2023-24. And I know that was a bit of a muted entry, although it was a bit loud because I think I did roar into the microphone. But I think it might have been a bit of a muted entry. But I am absolutely buzzing for this game against Newcastle United at the weekend. We're a small bit late. Do apologise about that. But Paddy, how are you getting on?
I'm great. I'm enjoying what could be the last day of summer. So I've been out by Loch Derg and I've been eating pizza by the lake and I've had a couple of beers and I'm full of the joys of summer.
Great. Well, look how much more I can't feel too sorry for you. So, if
No,
that's the case,
why would you?
I finished work at 8 o'clock, got the dog for a walk, and I'm back here now doing a podcast. And you know what? I wouldn't change it any other way because, as I say, we've got Newcastle at the weekend. There's bits and pieces just, I suppose, before we get into the Newcastle preview, Paddy, because as everybody knows here, we do like to deviate early on in the podcast. It looks like the Aaron Ramsey deal is now more or less done. Was it Ornstein that had it? That Burnley have reached a verbal agreement with Aston Villa for Aaron Ramsey, working to finalise a deal, 14 million plus add-ons and a buyback. That's interesting too. But the little piece at the end is Aston Villa are open to Cameron Archer sale amid strong interest. Now, Paddy, if Aston Villa somehow sell Cameron Archer, there has to be a big striker coming in. There just has to be or another striker coming in. There just has to be. Talk a small bit about the Aaron Ramsey piece first, Paddy, just before we I suppose we get into it. 14 million, I think, is decent business plus add-ons, and the fact we've got the buyback there. I'd like to know a small bit more about what the buyback is, but talk to me about it. How would you feel about it? I think the numbers are nice.
I think we've got the best part of the deal, and that's no slight on Aaron Ramsey. If it works out for him, we buy him back. If it doesn't work out, it's better than sending him on loan and bringing him back, and he just doesn't push on. So he's got an opportunity to go and play Premier League football, possibly 2 years to buy him back. We'll find that out in due course, I'd imagine. That's normally what they give us, 2 years. It is basically as well, Luton will only, or Burnley you're only able to loan one person from the Premier League. Is that correct?
This is it. Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, but what you're saying is exactly correct, and it's why Southampton did it last year as well.
Yeah,
bought them with buybacks.
Exactly. So that helps them in that department. Who knows? The Vincent Kompany probably go back to his old team and get a lend of somebody who's going to be shit hot. So it'll be a case of that Aaron Ramsey wouldn't have got that move otherwise. So look, it's a no-brainer really. We get to see what he can do at Premier League level. Unfortunately, it means he gets to play against us. So I hope he doesn't do too well when he comes up against us. But look, it's a good deal for us. If it doesn't work out, it's an even better deal. But 14 million for him, 20 million for Carney, and then they're talking about close to 20 million for Cameron Archer. If I would imagine that's to a championship club, which is interesting in itself.
I have ideas on where in the championship Cameron Archer is going, or could be going. Don't even know if he's going to be sold. I have ideas that he could be staying in and around, going to the East Midlands. Is it to Coventry? They've got a load of money. They're looking for a striker. Garkes has moved on. Looks like they're going to sell Ben Hammer. They're going to need a striker that's done it. It just popped into my head there. Potentially, yeah. I think obviously with somebody like Cameron Archer, it's going to be the similar type of deal. It's going to be buybacks involved. I don't know, does he go to the Premier League?
No. Well, it was 3 championship teams that were named to me, and funnily enough, neither of them were Coventry. So
I'm
there
just
you go.
thinking on the fly here.
Yeah.
Southampton, JVFC is saying here Southampton would be a good one. I think that'd be a nice deal. They've formed for the set for.
That was one of the ones that was named to me today was Southampton. So it was Southampton, Preston, and Watford.
I don't think Preston can afford him.
I don't think
Preston can afford him.
Watford probably, just about, I'd say. But I can't imagine Preston can. Southampton got a ball of money for James Ward-Prowse, so there's some money in the bank there to strengthen the team. You'd have to think they're strengthening the position that James Ward-Prowse has vacated, but they also do need a striker.
Yeah, and like as I say, we're not advocating for the sale of Cameron Archer. We're discussing this under the banner of David Ornstein's reporting, I suppose,
Absolutely.
and the fact that it has been out there. The other, as I say, the reason more to the point that we're discussing this is we're light as all hell up top. You know, we can't, like, if Cameron Archer is going to be sold or even go out on loan, they're just absolutely 1,000,000%, 1 bazillion% has to be a striker coming in. There just has to be. We cannot. I'm going to say it. We kind of got lucky with Watkins last season, and we got lucky with the fact he stayed injury free. And that's going to bring us on. We're going to go directly into the Newcastle talk on this because it's interesting.
Before you go into the Newcastle talk, there's also another reason we could be light up top, and that's the rumours around Emi Buendia.
I think
apparently taking up an injury today, but it's a rumour. We've had no clarification, so we have to treat it that it could possibly be happening. Otherwise, we're doing the people listening to the service. So, as it stands, we're losing 3 attacking players for a period of time, if the news is to be believed. So, let's.
Well, if Buendia is injured, the Aaron Ramsey deal is off for me.
You would have thought so, or at least put on the back burner for a few days till they see what's going on. Or to see if they could bring in a replacement. Having said that, we do have plenty of players, but if you take 3 players out of the equation, all of a sudden we become light in that department, which is probably the department that we're the lightest in. So it's I'd be worried if Buendia was injured because he's had a really good season.
The Buendia thing has only been reported by one place, as far as I know.
Yeah, I've heard different reports today, and the guy who's usually on the money who lets me know stuff didn't have a clue, hadn't heard a thing. So
and if it's an ACL, there's stretchers involved. There's fucking well, maybe there isn't, but there's just talk about an ACL. I'd imagine.
Who knows?
But look, that is going to be interesting, as I say, because when we did our preview, we did say I've always been of the opinion there's a striker coming in. I think even more so now, and even if Archer stays, I think there's a striker coming in anyway, or another another attacking player, should I say? So it is going to be really interesting from that point of view. But that brings us on. Actually, wait a minute. Nick Bailey says Bailey can be a striker. Are you offering your services, Nick, or is it just are you talking about Leon Bailey, Nick? Is that what it is? But yeah, I suppose, look, Leon Bailey will be relied upon an awful lot. It was his birthday today. So happy birthday, Leon Bailey. And he's somebody actually going on to the Newcastle game, Paddy. He's somebody I think we might even see started the weekend. I think he might be somebody. I think it could be Diaby up top. I think we could have Bailey in there, McGinn, and then Kamara and Luis with Tielemans in the bench ready to come in. And offer that kind of that extra kind of push, I suppose, in the second half. But talk to me about what way you would line up, or what your thoughts are on the lineup, on potential lineup, should I say, for the weekend.
I'll tell you one thing, regardless of what my opinion on what the lineup is going to be, there is no way in hell I'd be putting any money on what the lineup would be, because I think anything is literally possible in the next few days. I think you're right. I think we could see Bailey and Diaby with Watkins. Who knows? Absolutely, who knows? Look, there's so many people with their hands up there that have had a decent preseason. I noticed all the other podcasts are the bull at the gate as well. We're all just willing this game to come, so we're all very early with our review, our previews this week. So look, it's unfortunately, we're caught for times we couldn't do tomorrow or Friday, so that's why we're here tonight. So, well, I couldn't anyway.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not caught for time, but I couldn't do this without you, Paddy. That's why I said I'd do it.
thanks.
I'll probably be back talking about some nonsense tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, funny you should say that, because I went to the venue of our live show yesterday.
Yes.
And I stood up on the stage, and I actually, for the first time, went, "Thank God Neil talks so much."
Yeah, actually, Paddy, you sent me some pictures and some videos of the venue. I haven't seen the venue yet. Well, I've seen it on TV, because it's a venue that whereby it's ironic enough. It's probably one of the biggest comedy clubs in Ireland, and us two jokers are going to be taken to the stage in a month from today, the 9th of September. So I'm really looking forward to it now. And as I say, yeah, it's going to be good crack. But yeah, you're right. I do talk an awful lot. Bought a couple of props today, Paddy, and I'm not telling you what they are, and I'm not telling you when they're coming out as well. So if anybody who's coming, I won't be telling Paddy everything I've got in store for the podcast. So yeah. It's going to be a bit of crack. But anyway, getting back to the Newcastle game, Paddy. Paddy, can you tell me, come on, off the top of your head, you're like the Jimmy McGee of Aston Villa, and only Irish people of a certain age will get that one. What was the lineup for Aston Villa versus Newcastle on the 15th of April, 2 days before my birthday, when Aston Villa won 3-0? Come on, quick. Let's do a mess.
Who's the lineup?
What was the lineup?
Martinez, Cash.
No.
Dean. No Cash. Ashley
No
Young.
Cash.
No, Ashley
Yes.
Young.
Yeah.
Luca Dean.
No.
Alex Moreno.
Yes.
Konza Mings.
Yeah.
Boubacar Kamara.
No.
Jesus. Oh, then Donker started and he was brilliant.
Then Donker and Louise. Yeah.
Yeah. Buendia.
Buendia. Yeah.
Bailey.
No. Come on. He's a big arse.
John McGinn.
Yes.
Watkins.
Yes. And on the left, got an assist and a goal the same day.
Ramsey.
Yes, Jacob Ramsey. Exactly. Yeah. And Chambers came on, and Duran came on and got his customary yellow card. But that was the setup that we had against Newcastle on not so long ago, like in April. So obviously Watkins got 2 goals that day, 2 goals and assist, and hit the crossbar. He was outstanding that day. Ramsey was outstanding as well that day, and it was just a really, really good team performance. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, Paddy, the reason that I wanted to bring that up is that, you know, Newcastle brought in Harvey Barnes. That's been their big push this season, from what I can remember. Am I missing anyone there? Pardon me? But Tonali, yeah. I don't know.
But it was Tonali and Onana that I mentioned in our season preview that I'm looking forward to seeing how they adapt to the game. So to the pace of the Premier League, I thought he was caught out a few times in the couple of games I saw of him playing in America, where he felt he had more time on the ball. He's not going to get that at the weekend, and I would imagine that there's going to be somebody literally standing on his toes at the weekend. So we you can be sure that the professor is all over that.
Yeah, and Livramento as well just signed this week as well. But yeah, I think obviously Tonali is a huge signing for them. They've lost Alan Saint-Maxim, they've lost Chris Wood, obviously they're people that were gone anyway. Really didn't play an awful lot towards the end of last season. They brought in Livramento, another right back with Kieran Trippier there. I wonder what the situation is there. Are they going to push Trippier a small bit further forward? Will they be able to? Pardon, or will they start him left back? Yeah, they've got Matty Targett and Dan Byrne. And I'll be honest with you, if they start Dan Byrne at left back again, I can see John McGinn having a field day with him, because John McGinn smashed into him like a little, he was like a drone, just going at him like a little terrier the whole time. Maybe they start Trippier at left back. Maybe they start Livramento. Livramento coming off a bad injury as well. Does he get the start at the weekend? That Newcastle backline is going to be pretty similar, I think, as it was against Aston Villa. That's not to say that there's going to be the same result. In midfield, then they're going to have. I would imagine Joelinton won't be in there. I'd imagine it's going to be Tonali, Guimaraes, maybe Elliot Anderson gets a start. He's had a brilliant preseason. I'd say he'll see some game time. They've got Anthony Gordon there, as we mentioned. Harvey Barnes is going to be there. Whether he starts at the weekend, I would imagine he would. I suppose really what I'm kind of getting at here, Paddy, is that that they're very good signings for Newcastle, but are they going to hit the ground running directly straight away on the first game of the season? And is this the time to play them at St. James's Park, given we haven't beaten them since something like 2005 in St. James's Park?
Was it that long?
I think it is. Is it not the game whereby the two boys went scrapping?
Stato's in there, and he'll tell us.
Stato's here. I think it was.
I was at 2 games in St. James's Park. Only ever 2 games. The first game, Alan Shearer was sent off, and the second game, the 2 boys were sent off for fighting. So I can't tell you in what order they were. Stato has just said confirmed. So was that 2005? Was that the day
2005? Boyer and Dyer went poking the head off each other.
The day that Alan Shearer was sent off, whatever it was.
No, I think that was 2005. Yeah.
Did we beat them in the championship? Probably not. And
Stephen Taylor was sent off. He says as well. Did we beat them in the championship? I don't think we did, because we were only 1 year in the championship with them, if I'm not mistaken. That was the year they had Rafa, wasn't it?
They went straight back up. Yeah, we actually we beat Brighton to send them up as champions that day. Yeah,
absolutely. But I suppose, looking at that team,
and they've always historically been very good at home. While not always getting the win, they've been well able to grind out results at home, and that's always been in their favour.
6 draws and 8 losses Aston Villa have had. Yeah, well, and look, to be honest with you, you talk about footballing grounds being like cathedrals or being, a real fulcrum around a community. It really is. They're I know they take off their shirts in the middle of December and they show their big bellies and stuff like that, and that's the kitsch side of things. But they're very good fans. They always have been. They've had a 50,000 seater stadium, give or take, for a long period of time. And what was his name? Was it Freddie Shepherd? Was it the guy that owned the club? And but even going back to the days of Festina Espria, we might not always like the Geordies or whatever, and there is a bit of needle between the two sets of fans. But they propel their team. They're a nodal regional team, in a city, obviously, but they get an awful lot. They squeeze an awful lot out of juice out of those fans, and those fans then love to put it back into the club. And I think that's what they're. I think they're a really cool club from that point of view. That they they've been in the Champions League. They've had some really, really good players. They weren't always the top table of English football, and I still want to go and beat them 6-0 at the weekend. But there's a couple of clubs that I find it difficult to dislike. Everton are one of them. And Newcastle are another club, and I know people will disagree with that, but I just think it's because they keep the community that they're in really going. They're a community colloquial team, and I think there's something lovely and quaint about it. And Villa are like that too. I think that's probably why.
Yeah. I think anyone that goes to St. James's Park cannot do anything else but admire the spirit around the ground and around the city when the game is on. You don't get it in Birmingham because Villa Park is so far out of town. But if you're walking around Newcastle city centre, all you see is the top of that stadium from literally everywhere you can see it. Yeah. It's probably other than what do they call it now, the Principality Stadium in Cardiff. It's the only city centre stadium I've ever come across in the UK that's that close that you're just walking around and it's just on your doorstep. But I've always found them to be really good fans, even since the sob on the tie and stuff. Certain fans get it. The ones that talk on Twitter get animated about it. The real fans don't give a shit.
I must preface it as well. Obviously, recent events, ownership-wise and whatever else, withstanding. But I said previously, the way I talked about Freddie Shepherd, I talked about Festina Espria, through the years I've found them easy to like,
Yeah, generally when I talk about a club, I talk about the historical element of the club and the fan base. Mm-hmm. And you're correct in what you're saying. I always speak really well about Everton, a brilliant club and brilliant fans. Don't always admire the players that are on the pitch, and you get fans that do stupid things like throwing the bottle of Luca Dean last year. These things happen. you're going to get idiots everywhere. I didn't agree with the Sob on the Time banner that went up. I thought that was unfair. I wouldn't like that be done to us. So for that reason, I didn't enjoy that, and I didn't laugh at it by any stretch of the imagination. And look, it came back to us years later when we went down. It's the most horrible feeling you can go through, and they've been through a few of them, but they're still there. They're still there, filling that huge stadium. I suppose the worst part about it is we're up in the gods for it. Our fans are up in the gods, miles away from. And hopefully when the North Stand is built, that's what we'll be doing to other fans.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember Lee Johnson giving out about that when his Bristol City team came to play against Aston Villa in the Championship. Guys, I suppose going back to the team and the people that will be on the field, Paddy, like, take nothing away from Newcastle, an absolutely superb season last year. Like, I kept on saying here, prior to even last season when they went on that massive run, when Eddie Howe took over, I kept on saying that it was unsustainable. And then they came along next year and they did it again. They to slightly lesser degree. And you know what we did last year was better than what they did when Eddie Howe came along. So we'd be hoping to keep that momentum going in as well. But speaking solely about Newcastle United, my big thing here is that last year, for a period of the season, there was very few better right wingers in the Premier League than Miguel Almiron. And for me, I'm wondering, can he do it again? I'm wondering because there was a time where literally you just, like, the phone would buzz, it'd be a Newcastle goal, you'd know who scored it. It was Almiron. He was literally on fire, and they had him humming, and Eddie Howe had him humming. The big thing for them is, and we're not taking anything away from them, like, they're a real formidable team, and I do think that other previews of the league this year underestimate the likes of Newcastle, Aston Villa, Brighton, and automatically assume that Spurs are going to be back in top 5 contention again. I don't think it's that clear, like we've spoken about before. But I think a lot hinges on Eddie Howe being able to squeeze, as I mentioned about squeezing the juice out of the fans, squeezing the juice out of these players to the degree he did over the last 38 plus, over the last 51 games that he's been in, that they've gone in this massive long run for. Yeah,
I have mixed feelings on Miguel Almiron. I thought he was excellent, as you said, up until around February, March, and then just ran out of steam. And I think we Jack Grealish to thank for that as well in his comments after they won the league last year. Look, we know he can turn it on any given day. I just felt he got really, really tired towards the end of last season. I'm not sure if he played international football or not during the break. So I think he probably could have done or benefited from a break from all football to try and get him back up to speed to where he is. Where he started last season, and I think the only way he was going to do that was with a rest. So I think there's probably another weapon after joining on the other side that I'm more worried about, who always seem to up his game against us, and no doubt that he'll be in from the start. That's Harvey Barnes that I'm talking about. So let's see what they throw at us. And
Paddy, we always have to be aware of the absolute dynamo that's in there. We've seen a lot of him. We're lucky to have seen him in a green shirt. Jeff Hendrick is back at Newcastle United as well, Paddy.
Stop, Neil.
Look, Jeff Hendrick. I forgot he was still at Newcastle. That's why I was just scrolling down through the team there, and I came across him and went, "Oh, was he not sold to Reading or whoever it was?" Yeah. But I don't think we'll see much. We'll see time for Jeff Hendrick at the weekend, albeit that Jeff is only 31. There still is juice left in the tank there, or there still is oil left in the tank there for him. So hopefully he can regain his form for us in the Irish midfield, because he hasn't been great for about 4 years now. Going back, Paddy, there's always, or recently, should I say, not there's always, but recently I've seen a lot of chatter about making comparisons between an Aston Villa player and a Newcastle player. And I think we'll see this quite a lot this season. I think Harvey Barnes and Diaby will be pitted against each other for the whole lot of the season, because obviously Villa were linked to Harvey Barnes. They got Diaby. And I think that obviously the keyboard warriors on Twitter, on both sides of the fan base, the Twitter side or the Villa side and the Newcastle side, will barb at each other. When Barnes is going well, when Diaby's going well, they'll be back and forth. But there's also two other players, Paddy, I think we're seeing a bit now whereby the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Douglas Luiz are being mentioned in the same sentence, from what they do in the field and how they get around the field, and how impressive they've been, and also Lucas Paqueta, who's been linked with Man City for 70 million. Now, while I don't think that Douglas Luiz is a £70 million player just yet, I don't think Paqueta is either, by the way. But like the fact that we have Douglas Luiz, the fact that Douglas Luiz has started to grow season on season, and we talked about this in our preview, I think that's going to be a really interesting battle. And I think throughout the course of the season, whoever comes out on top there will be a mainstay in the Brazilian squad. And I think that's a nice carrot for Douglas Luiz to have, because at the moment it's Bruno Guimaraes to take and to hold. But I don't think I wouldn't be so sure that he would have it towards the end of the season.
I suppose the way I look at this is, would you take one over the other? And my choice would be Douglas Luiz. I think he has a lot more strings to his bow. I think he's getting better year on year. I think Manchester City are regretting not taking him back when they had the opportunity at that price. He's worth multiples of that now, I think. So for that reason, and the fact that he's now had 3 or 4 years in the Premier League to grow and develop into the player that he is, and Unai Emery can only make him even better, I think. We saw a completely different side to him last season, bombing on, getting on the end of passes in the final third of the pitch, scoring goals like the one against Spurs. He just has so much to offer. His set piece delivery. I want to give go ahead. Very important, a thumbs up. But yeah, that's normally when someone asks a question like that. And don't get me wrong, I haven't watched Bruno playing week in, week out. But my opinion is that if given the choice, I would pick Douglas Luiz.
Do you know what? If I was a manager, if I was rumored to be Carlo Ancelotti coming into the Brazilian setup in a year's time, I think I would be licking my lips at the midfielders that he has at his disposal now. It's an area that Brazil are sneaky good. Brazil, no, not sneaky good, because when have Brazil ever been really bad? And I know people are going to mention that result against Germany, but over a concerted period of time, like, this Brazil team is nice, and I think the reason I bring it up is that, like, Douglas Luiz is going to be a main player, and as I said, next year we will be fielding big bids for Douglas Luiz next season. I can see it. It's up to the club to grow, to keep players like him at the club, and I think they will grow and keep him at the club. And the reason I brought it up was because obviously the money being mentioned for Paqueta and Bruno Guimaraes at the start of the off season was being mentioned with 70, 80, 90 million pound moves as well. Very, very spurious rumours, but they were there. And I think Douglas Luiz can reach the levels of those two players, and it's going to be really interesting, because I think he's the key cog this weekend. I really do. I think Aston Villa are going to need to make those plays through the middle again, like we've been doing in pre-season, and I think that's going to be a big facet of our play, trying to make those spaces in front of Ollie Watkins. John McGinn, I think, will play further forward. And I think we'll try and open up a space there, a little box in front of Ollie Watkins, to play the ball into, where maybe Watkins can vacate that space for John McGinn coming in off the flank, or Diaby coming narrow beside Watkins. So it gives two options, drags defenders across each other. Defenders hate crossing each other, and they also hate being spread out. But it's very easy for a defender not to get spread out. It's very difficult for a defender to not cross over, because you have to be, it has to be almost telepathic for defenders not to cross over, to be able to kind of stop your run, track the next person that's coming, and it can be really difficult. So you want defenders to be crossing across each other, and I think Villa have done that in pre-season. The Diaby goal for Douglas Luiz played the ball forward. It was a prime example of that. The Tielemans pass to Ollie Watkins. The defenders didn't cross over, but because they didn't cross over each other, Watkins was in loads of space. So it's brilliant. It's a real good tactic. It's a simple tactic. It's a tactic I remember being taught when I was 11 years of age playing under 12 football. But it's like, sometimes the simple tactics work, and when they work really well, because it's not. It can be as difficult. The game can be as difficult as you make it. Unai Emery has really tried to simplify this, and sometimes teams fail to kind of pick up the simplified pieces. And that's why I think playing it through the middle and having Douglas Luiz in there is going to be really important. And it's also why I think Tielemans will be kept in reserve to come in to keep that impetus going on at 65, 70 minutes, to drive on into that last quarter, to the closing quarter of the game. And that's why I don't think he will start at the weekend. And I think Bailey will start, McGinn will start, Diaby will start, and then the two boys in Kamara and Luis will start in the middle of midfield with our back four. Almost, I would say, picking itself, because I think it will be Luke Dean at left back, and I think it will be Matty Cash at right back. But I wouldn't put any money on either of those two starting in either of those two positions.
Yeah. Well, look, we know that there's rumours as well of Luke Dean going to Saudi Arabia, as we said the other night. So we could see Pau Torres playing at left back. Who knows? And that's why there's so many cogs in this that there's no way I would even attempt to pick the team, or certainly I would attempt it, but putting money on it is just bizarre, I'd say.
Yeah. Andy Badley, Paddy. Okay, right. Okay. Had a couple of comments recently that Paddy goes in on refs after the games. Will we give you a chance to do it before the games so we can not talk about it after the games? I leave it up to you. What way do you want to go about it? Andy Madley at the weekend, Paddy. I won't ask you about Lee Mason because we're not talking about Lee Mason being appointed VAR, being reappointed the PGMOL's VAR guy, I think, again, after being sacked from the gig last year for making loads of mistakes. We won't talk about that, Paddy, because we're on already for half an hour. Andy Madley at the weekend, how do you feel? Sum it up in a 2-sentence salvo.
I'll sum it up in one sentence. I think if you don't have Anthony Taylor on the pitch, you don't have a decent referee in the Premier League. That's the way it's gone. That's the way it is. And I will reserve, because I know a lot of people come in to listen to hear what I have to say about the referee. So I'll reserve the judgment until after the game. Okay. But they're all, as far as I'm concerned, they're all as bad as each other. And those that knew, I always said Simon Hooper was the best referee in the Premier League. He bowed down to the Big Six, unfortunately, last year, and lost all faith from me anyway. That's for sure. So the rest of them are just the same. They're just yes men that are towing the line badly, and I have no faith. Yeah.
And as I say, look, being a referee is a tough gig. But Paddy, as you said before, numerous times previously, it's when the air time becomes the referee's time. It becomes frustrating from that point of view, and you've been often known to call them celebrities from time to time. So that's kind of the issue with it. Everyone can go out and have a bad day, but it's the persistent bad days. And I think a lot of leagues in Europe are struggling for top quality referees. And as I say, we would hope none of them go out there with preconceived notions, but we couldn't say for sure. But I know even here in the league, you want to see bad refereeing? Come watch a League of Ireland match. Whoosh! That'll get you going.
And anyone who watches League of Ireland, Damien Duff manages the team that I support, and I'll be able to see them Friday night in a derby game. But he made a famous speech about 6 weeks ago where he says, "The referees are here, players are up here. We've created an amazing spectacle for people to come and watch. If you don't bring the referees up to the same level, then they become the frustration." For me, they've become the frustration in the UK. They've been a frustration for many, many years. I've always felt they favoured the Big Six. I've yet to meet someone who wasn't a fan of the Big Six that doesn't agree with that. I thought a VAR would change that. It didn't, because you still have the little 50-50 decisions to make. There's going to be a lot of frustration around referees this weekend, and it's not the referees' fault that they've been told to pause the clock. I'm 100% fine with them pausing the clock, as long as they pause the clock for everybody, not just pause the clock because Emi Martinez is diving on the ball. Pause the clock for everybody. That is all we want, is a level playing field for everybody, and everybody be happy. We won't even have to talk about it. But look, they do stupid things. We had 2 pre-season friendlies with Peter Banks, and he was overheard saying, "I told you the last day we played last week." You shouldn't be there 2 weeks in a row. Like, what are they doing? Madness. Anyway, enough about referees.
enough for referees as
For
well.
now.
For now. And you know what? Paddy's going to a game on Friday night. And you think, like, one thing I love about League of Ireland is they've got some great names for the derbies. It's called the Working Classico against Shelburne and Bowes. Isn't that, it's Shelburne and Bowes, the Working Classico, isn't it?
It's actually Shells and Rover, so it's the Irish Town Derby.
Oh, is it? Is that what's on this weekend? Oh, it's the Irish Town Derby. That's not. See, that's not even half as cool. The Working Classico as well. Oh, that's actually, is that St. Pat's and Bowes? Is the Working Classico? So I think it's Pat's and Bowes. The Working Classico is brilliant. I love that nickname. Anyway, we've really divulged from the Newcastle talk. Paddy, you last year, you refrained from giving your match predictions, your scoreline predictions, and you waited until the team sheet tantrum. Are you going to keep that going? Because it worked so well last year. We started winning when you kept on doing it.
Yeah, I would always be that way. And I think even more so this year, now that we have options to switch up the team to play against different systems. So in my head, I would work out how I would have thought the team would line up and go, yeah, I think we might go and win this game. And then when he picks the team, I might think we win by less, or it'd be a lot tighter than I thought it would be, or we might run away with it. So I will do that as I always have done in the team sheet tantrum.
I'm going to go with a 1-0 win for Aston Villa away from home. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with a team that goes out there and tries to own the ball in St. James's Park. I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think it'll be nervy. I think there'll be goals overruled. I think there will be talking points after the game. I think there's I said who was going to score Aston Villa's very first goal. I think I said it was going to be Douglas Luiz. I think the goal will come from midfield at the weekend. I think we'll come away 1-0 win, first win since 2005, and bring 3 points back to Villa Park then the week after, because I just have a nice feeling about this game. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with 1-0 win. The more I talk about it, the more I'm kind of going, it feels like it could happen. We had a brilliant defensive record last year, and yes, a lot of people are talking about the high line in preseason. Look, for me, you've got no VAR there. We've just spoken about VAR. Helped us an awful lot last season. It will help us an awful lot this season because we play that high line so well. It's another reason why I think Dina and Cash are going to be the two fullbacks. I think we'll go with traditional fullbacks as well away from home, and I just think that unit will be very cohesive, I think, at the weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lively game.
We've got it. I think this has the potential to be the game of the weekend. I don't think there'll be a bigger game played this weekend, or a more intense game played this weekend. You've got two teams who are not separated by a whole lot of points at the end of last season, and when you think of the hope that we had last season going into play Bournemouth, I'm actually glad we're playing one of the bigger boys now, in that we're going to be tested from day one. We might catch them on the hop. And I think if we catch them on the hop, it will be a huge springboard for this season. So I would snap your hands off for that 1-0 win that you're talking about. I think there will be more goals than that in it. But I'll reserve judgment for what I see the two teams pick on Saturday.
Hopefully. Oh, yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I'll take a 6-0 win, as I said. That'll be fine too. But
I don't think we're going to see that either.
Well, as you say, we wait and see what teams are announced. So we will be back with a team sheet tantrum, everybody. The first one of the season. I'm expecting 14 million people in the chat. No less. I'll be very disappointed if I don't have 14 million people in the chat. So I better be back here again for the weekend. It will be an hour and 10 minutes. For those of you who are new and haven't experienced the team sheet tantrum, the tantrum part came from was it Dean Smith? I think it was Dean Smith's because people used to have meltdowns over the Smith team, and the fact that he never changed the team. So we haven't changed the name from Team Sheet Tantrum yet. It'll be an hour and 10 minutes before the game, and that will make it 4:20 on Saturday. So we will see you back here again then, and we will go directly live after the game with a post-match as well. So we'll hope to see you for both of those. And Sai is asking there, boys, just quickly, have you started a fantasy league this year? What's the code? Paddy has done the honors on that again, and I think he tweeted it out. So Paddy, you might tweet it out again later on.
I'll send it out to Sai as well.
Yeah, send it on, and a bit of crack there, as I say. If you want to finish second last after me, in the fantasy league, be my guest, because I set my team in September, and then I just leave it, see how it gets on. That's the test of a real manager, I think. Loyalty. I'm all about the loyalty. Yeah, and tomorrow Hibs and Luzerne on tomorrow. Obviously, first leg of their game. Winner takes a trip to Aston Villa, or winner accepts Aston Villa to their ground on the 24th of August, and we'll be looking forward to that as well. Mike, come on, don't know, will I get a chance to do anything? I was thinking maybe if had an idea for something to do for that, but I don't know what I get time to do it. But look, we'll be watching it with interest anyway. Anyway, it is 10:15 here in Ireland, and I think a lot of people need to get to bed. But thanks so much, everybody, for watching. There was ones of 200 people here at one stage. Really, really appreciate that. If you do like the podcast, give us a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the podcast. Rob your friend's phone, subscribe them to the podcast. They'll thank you later. It's the cheapest Christmas present you'll ever get anybody. Is just pressing the subscribe button on YouTube for them. Also, if you listen to the audio podcast, or even if you don't listen to the audio podcast, one really cool thing that you can do. A lot of people ask us, how can we help the podcast? And we don't solicit money, we don't do anything. We try not to. Like, obviously we sell hats and stuff like that from time to time, and we've got a live podcast going on. But a lot of people ask, how can they help the podcast? Do you know what one of the easiest ways you can do is subscribing your audio podcast, whether it be Spotify or whether it be Apple Music or whatever it is, and just download the episodes. It really helps us. It really helps with the algorithm and gets people out there as well. And also on those apps as well, you can leave a little review. If you leave us a little review as well, and a 5-star review and a written comment underneath, if you like the podcast, you don't even have to listen to one of the shows. That really just helps us through the algorithms as well. So it's all about trying to find new people to get to find the podcast and grow the community that we have here. So that's just a little bit of a housekeeping here before we finish up. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining. Really, really appreciate it. And we're going to leave it at that. And we will be back again on Saturday for the Team Sheet Tantrum. So in the meantime, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.